is there some kind of mysterious ancient connection between East and West, between the ancient culture, civilizations of India and Europe, British Isles? There's some linguistic evidence, but we want more. We want more substance. My name's Stevie Saranga, and I was a Hindu monk for 10 years, living at an ashram on top of a hill in Scotland. And so I've pieced together this presentation, and I'm just trying to move. Can I move this screen down to the bottom there? Yeah, I've pieced together this presentation to share. And I want to start by telling about I want to tell my story of my journey with these stories and how I put them together, how I put them together. So I see myself as a bit of a bridge between East and West. There's a picture of me there. I was raised in England with a standard English education, went to university, but yeah, not as much as going to university. The education you get just from being around in a particular place at a particular time, watching the telly, speaking with other people, you know, what you get from your parents, you kind of get cultured, that, you know, an understanding of like what's, you know, a place is about. You just take that for granted. You take it with you. But having had that foundation, that grounding, then I went to be a monk, and I'm going to tell what you know, part of what that meant. And but first I want to say about this presentation, that like it's something new. Why has nobody else suggested this connection before? And I'd like to say that I think for me there is a connection, but the reason no one else has come up with it before, I mean, very few people are familiar in Britain with these ancient Indian epics, and they should be more familiar actually. But that's the thing, maybe they already are, but they just don't know it. But like the Ramayana, who's heard of the Ramayana? I've got a copy here. This is the famous edition by Krishna Dharma. I think this is the most popular edition. And it does read something like a fantasy novel, something, you know, Lord of the Rings-esque, but which is taken on literal value by Hindus. And Krishna Dharma has another, there's two epics in Indian literature. That's the Ramayana, and the other is called the Mahabharata. And yeah, to describe them as epics is the best way to describe them. Something equivalent to the Homer's Iliad and the Odyssey from Greek. They're considered two Greek epics, and actually these are longer, so they're more epic. But yeah, so and the reason I think is because of there's no one else has pieced them together before. Is just because of it's a common critique of academia, which is specialization. Everyone's really zoomed in on their specific area in which they know a lot, and it takes somebody to sit back and see a broader picture of things. For example, you know, we're talking about history. So, you know, someone is a specialist in 14th century English history, something like that, and they don't know any. They've got a grounding, you know, in other subjects, but they don't know a lot about other subjects. Any area of academia, science, whatever it is, people are very, very specialized, and I'm saying that's why no one else has put this. Put these two things together before. So yeah, as a monk, then I've been become conversant with. Let's do this slide first. Purpose of the presentation: build a bridge between East and West. See India as a mother culture as opposed to something foreign and alien. Break the barriers of pride and prejudice against Eastern gods. I was one time I was. Yeah, well, let me just say that I was raised a Christian, my parents weren't into it, but I took a really active interest in the stories of Jesus, of my own volition, falling out of any kind of religious belief in my teenage years, getting into drinking and everything. I kind of renounced God, and I kind of got back into spirituality or religion through paganism. I joined a Druid group and read some books about paganism. I was practicing what it was suggesting in the books. And anyway, after that, then I became a monk. Didn't want to be a jack of all trades, interested in all different religions. Opportunity came my way to join a monastery and spend a deep, serious time learning. And actually, after that, I was helping to organize a festival. And I went a festival, putting up posters, going from shop to shop, asking if I could put up a poster for this festival. And it was a Hare Krishna festival. And I went into a pagan shop, and I thought, well, I used to be a pagan, or I still am a pagan. Surely these guys will let me put up a poster in their shop, because from my point of view, there's the pagan, what we call the pagan religion is personifying. I want to break it down to two components: personifying nature. So there's a deity or a personified deity of a river or a mountain or a forest, and so there's this aspect, and also an aspect in which belief in gods or demigods, sort of a rain god, a god of the sun, etc., god of the wind. And so for me, paganism and Hinduism are part of a worldwide system of belief which predates most of the major world religions that we now recognize. So we're looking at all the ancient tribes, and there's actually a fantastic chapter about this in Michael A. Cremo's book called Human Devolution, and the chapter is called I think it's called the Universal Hierarchy or Universal Cosmology. No, I've got it written down on my paper here. Cosmic Hierarchy, a cross-cultural study. And so he analyzes lots of old tribes, surviving older tribes, ancient tribes living around the world, and all six continents, and finds out about their cosmology, and he finds that they're all practically the same, with a kind of a similar template. So with this in mind, I entered the pagan shop on the Royal Mile in Edinburgh, expecting to be welcomed, to be nicely received as a representative of Eastern paganism, as a fully fledged Hindu. But I met with prejudice. No, we don't do Eastern things. We're pagans, we're the Western branch, So anyway, yeah, this is one of the points on here, isn't it? Help realize that the gods are universal. Yeah, if there's a god of the sun, it's the same sun that shines in Australia. It's the same sun that shines in South America. It's the same sun for everybody, and it's the same sun god. Okay, the next one: to give access to, introduce these wonderful stories of Lord Ram to new audiences. In the knowledge, hang on, let's move this thing. In the knowledge, knowledge that this is their Lord Ram, not a Hindu god. Okay. Next slide. Slide across. So yeah, I see myself as a bit of a bridge between East and West, raised as I was. But then, coming to join the monastery, I became familiar with these ancient teachings. Here they are. This is the original version of a lot of these ancient books. They were written, some of the earliest writings in Sanskrit, And according to the tradition itself, of course, academics dispute this, but the Bhagavad Gita says that Krishna, Lord Krishna, who's the supreme God, he taught these teachings to the sun god really long time ago, millennia ago, and then eventually they were written down about 5,000 years ago for the practical purpose of preserving them when people no longer have good memories. And what's parallel with that is also the Druids. They didn't write things down. They relied on their power of memory, which also challenges the idea of kind of progress, and which, people aren't getting more intelligent, they're getting less intelligent. But we don't want to get into that because that's a whole other rabbit hole to go down. So I became familiar with these ancient writings. These are the originals. This monk who came from Calcutta, A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami, he translated, for a lot of them, first-time translations. These books, this is in the 1960s, 1970s. These are the first available translations of these books. So previously unknown to the Western world. Something of a breakthrough, really, and a lot of other books that he translated as well. This is a kind of chart of this body of literature known as the Vedas. Everyone can acknowledge that the very old academics give them a date of 1000 BC, 1800 BC, 2000 BC. But from within the tradition itself, they're saying written down 3000 BC approximately. And I've become familiar with, but what I'm saying is, as a monk, I've become familiar, not with all of the literatures. We've got the Upanishads here. We've got the Puranas. The main book that I studied is the Bhagavat Purana. Purana means history of India, but actually history of the universe, really, history of the world, history of the universe, incorporating ancient aliens. This is more akin with the origin of life, according to the Bhagavat Purana, as opposed to Darwin's theory of evolution. We're talking ancient aliens. So we've got the Bhagavat Purana, and then here I've got these classics, the two classics, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata Itihasas. Familiar with these? Familiar with of the Upanishads, the Sri Upanishad? I've studied the Upanishad. So what I'm saying is I've got a familiarity with this literature, as well as my upbringing in the West. And there's me there as some kind of bridge, some kind of crossover between the two. There's me as a monk in my robes, giving out a book to a nice chap I met one day there in Buchanan Street. So I want to talk about what it meant to travel to the monastery and be a monk. And it was a big thing. It was a really big thing to leave my hometown, leave my friends, leave my family, and basically, leave practically everything behind. And there was an expectation as well on behalf of the monastery that whatever beliefs I would be holding, whatever cultural conditioning I would be holding, and whatever metaphysical preconceptions. I mean, just to mention one, is that it's typical of a Western upbringing, and particularly someone who's been to university, who's schooled for longer in that paradigm, is an acceptance of a world, a universe closed under physics. The laws of physics are accepted as the ultimate. We can't break the laws of physics. Okay, as a theist, as an atheist, you can accept that. As a theist, and I would argue that anyone who is a theist, whether it be a Christian or any theist, you accept the existence of an all-powerful, omniscient, omnipotent God, which therefore, if you accept that, you're almost obliged to say, well, the world is not closed under physics, which leaves you open for the possibility of miracles performed, things that break the laws of physics. So you can see that going to the monastery, it wasn't just changing where I lived, changing my group of friends, and saying goodbye to my family, not knowing if I would ever see them again. It was a real it was as though, yeah, I had to go there as a blank slate. I was part of the acceptance, I was older. I was slightly older than they would have desired. They were trying to recruit people. They wanted to recruit people who were younger. Perfect. 17, 18, 19, 20. I was 26. Like Yoda says, too old to begin the training. Too old to begin the training. Too much conditioning had already gone on. So they were trying to get younger people, but yeah, I was understood that I had to go as an empty cup, an empty vessel, and empty my mind of thoughts, of whatever beliefs I had. So so then, in that circumstance, going there, everything is to the monastery, everything is exotic, everything is unfamiliar, everything is strange, there's a strange culture. You don't sit at a table and eat with a knife and fork. You sit on the floor, you got to eat with your hand. If you use your left hand, everyone says that's not right, because you clean your backside with your left hand. This is what they do in India. Your left hand is for you cleaning your backside, your right hand is for eating, and you don't mix the two, right? Because that's pretty disgusting. I mean, yeah, knives and forks, not a big deal. When you go to McDonald's, I'm a vegetarian, by the way. If I do go to McDonald's, I get a McVeggie burger. Yeah, you eat with your hands, so not a big deal. But change of dress, yeah. I mean, my friend, you can see me there wearing an orange robe. When I first arrived, I had to wear a white robe. One of my friends, he says, your clothes is part of your identity. And yeah, I agree with that. It's like you can imagine an animal, a tiger, shave it off, a naked tiger without its stripes. It's different. It's not the same. It loses its identity. A mallard duck with the green head, imagine it plucked of feathers, naked. So humans are naked animals. I think yeah, we must be the only naked animal. We're naked animals, and so our clothes is part of our identity. So you take off your old clothes, you join the monastery, you take off all your old clothes, they give you new clothes. It's a new identity. It was a big change, a big change. And in that alien environment, this strange, very, very ultra hierarchical structure in the monastery. I'd experienced a little bit of that going sailing with some guys from the Royal Navy, but more strict. And a soldier, he can go home at the weekend. He stops being a soldier. He goes back to his hometown, to his family. A monk is never not a monk. Even if you go to home to visit your parents, you're still following the rules, the vows. So yeah, a monk is always a monk, and so in this big change, there was nothing familiar. There's nothing I carried over from the previous life to this new existence. But as I was sharing a bedroom with two other guys in bunk beds, and then the next down the corridor there's another room. There's two monks in there, and I made friends with there's a monk I was in the room with, Kapil, and then down the corridor was Alo from Mexico. I made friends with Alo from Mexico, and the building was actually, we were staying in the monastery building. It was a big building. It was like a kind of it was actually a modern house that they'd bought, and they was using it as an ashram. But there was a lot of closed doors, a lot of grey areas. We were allowed access, in the corridor, 2 or 3 rooms in this large house, and a lot of the doors were closed. What goes on behind there? No, what's this? Is something popped up? Didn't know what goes on behind closed doors. Didn't ask, just mind my own business. But me and Alla, we started sneaking around, in the evening, and we found one room at the end there. When we opened the door, and there's a kind of a guest room there that we'd not been in before. Sneaking around, snooping around, see what we could find. And I found this. I found a filing cabinet, and in the filing cabinet, a lot of tapes. Now, another thing is, I'd been told very, very strictly, you can, in the library, I was told in the library, though, you can study, these are the books you can study. You're not allowed to study these books. These are the advanced books. You're not allowed to study those, like, so, we were strict, there was certain things we could do, certain things we couldn't do, places we could go, certain places we couldn't go. And so anyway, we sneaked into this room and we found the filing cabinet, and in the filing cabinet, tapes, and there was a tape, and on the tape said Ramayana. Oh, what is this? Something, we're not allowed, something, yeah, there were 15 90-minute tapes, so it was a long story. It's an epic. As I said, it's a long, this was a very long, this was the narration of the book, and I had a tape player, so I started listening to these tapes when I was working in the gardens. I had a little tape player, so I listened to all of them. And I fell in love. With Lord Ram. I even cried at the end of the story. It was so touching, so amazing. And but yeah, I saw why. As soon as I started listening to it, I knew, oh, this is, in this world of unfamiliarity and strangers, here is my Robin Hood. Here he is. He's come with me. Robin has come with me. He's in my heart, and he's come. And if everything else was strange, but I still had my I had my Robin Hood, and I saw Robin Hood straight away in the story of the Ramayana. This is, for me, this is the same person, the same story. And and it's kind of like the story of the we were told we're not allowed to read these books. It's like the story of the sorcerer's apprentice. The my job at the time as well, it was sweeping the corridor and wiping it with a cloth by hand with a bucket. We didn't have any vacuum cleaners at the time. They tried to do everything in a simple, basic way, and I like it, actually. Whilst I was wiping the corridor, I could think about the morning Srimad Bhagavatam class I'd heard, and then think of questions and so the Sorcerer's Apprentice, is it? Everyone knows it from Mickey Mouse. He's sweeping. He's told you don't read this book. You're just sweeping. Learn these basic things first. Kind of like the Karate Kid, isn't it? Wax on, wax off. Wax on, wax off. But why am I waxing your car? I want to learn to be a warrior. I want to be a fighter. Paint the fence. So yeah, I got this Ramayana and narration of the Ramayana, and it gave me great solace to hang on to that, and my Robin had come with me. Yeah, and I remember going to the cinema to watch Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and reading. When I was a kid, I had three storybooks of Robin Hood. I've got this is the biggest one, actually. Roger Lancelyn Green. Who he was part of Tolkien's team. They would meet together in a pub in Oxford, and there's a film. I watched a film about Tolkien. I'm a big fan of Tolkien. I even had, when I was a pagan, I even had him as a picture of him as a guru figure on my altar. He's so studied in this history, which he kind of brings alive in his books. But it's some of that is based in the actual histories of the British Isles, the British people who lived there. But yeah, I was raised in Robin Hood throughout those formative years of, you know, when a young boy is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, he's looking for role models. And fortunately for me, my dad, gave me three Robin Hood storybooks, which I devoured and immersed myself and played. We had a caravan in the Lake District, a tourer just parked up in a campsite it's a forest. So I would play there with my stick, pretending to be Little John, whacking my stick and immersing myself. And that's yeah, I carry Robin Hood in my heart like this, from those formative years, and that model of virtue and a role model to aspire to. And yeah, I consider myself very fortunate that my dad did that, you know, and gave me those stories. Much better so than when I was the same age than other kids. They would have other role models like your Beckhams and your Rooneys, you know, like who I don't consider good role models. Beckham, then he's famous for like lashing out with his leg, getting that red card against Argentina, going down to 10 men. What hope have they got, you know, England? And then you've got your Rooney. Well, I mean, yeah, he's like an overgrown child, especially when he first started playing. He may be more mature now, but yeah, role models at those formative ages are important. And when I was growing up, then we had Robin of Sherwood with the famous Clannad soundtrack, and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Kevin Costner came out when I was 11, went to the cinema. So I feel myself fully versed in both the story of Robin Hood and then as a monk becoming familiar with the Ramayana and putting the two together. And yeah, a similar motif we get in the Robin Hood stories is this story which is echoed in Tolkien as well, the Fellowship of the Ring, how the group of friends, and it's the bond and the camaraderie between the friends, the love between the friends, which which overcomes like the evil empire. Like you see in Star Wars as well, it's a small group of friends, people who are pally, and you know, they can have a sense of humor between each other, and that overcomes this evil empire of no sense of humor allowed, you know. You can imagine like Darth Vader with those guys who wore the gray uniforms, like generals. It's like, you know, nobody crack a joke because you'll get like Darth Vader. So yeah, Tolkien really brings that out in the in the Hobbit with the and I've had similar experiences of people coming round, and we chant Hare Krishna, and they come round with their instruments, and we have a bit of a get together, and we cook some food, and it's it's like home. That's home. The sense of home, which Tolkien really brings out. So yeah, so this is my question. I'm saying somehow these things have got to be connected. Let's check out some more slides. These things have got to be connected. Could there be a connection, a cultural connection between East and West in ancient times? Could there be a connection? Both the Robin Hood story of popular Anglo-Saxon culture. I question that actually. Anglo-Saxon culture it's considered an English story, and it's isn't it? It's a folk story is as English as Robin Hood. Let's see what it says there. Has its origins in an older tradition from another part of the world. And the union of the Green Man and the May Queen celebrated at the Celtic pagan festival Beltane have their early origins in the classic epic poem Ramayana. Could it be true? Could it be true? Could there be a connection? And yeah, I want to challenge this Anglo-Saxon view of Robin Hood. I recently read a book, Alistair Moffat. He used to be maybe the chancellor or the dean of St Andrews University. I don't know what his academic qualifications are. That seemed to be more of a kind of what do they call it, like an honorary role. But he is he's a cool guy, Alistair Moffat. I read his book. It was about King Arthur. I was researching to see if there was a connection actually with King Arthur and perhaps Krishna and Arjuna, but there was no connection. There is no connection between those. And Alistair Moffat, to cut a long story short, Alistair Moffat in the book explains that actually the people of England, or the Celtic nations, are considered to be Ireland, Wales, Scotland, Cornwall, Brittany. These are the Celtic nations, the older Celtic people, and that England is more of an Anglo-Saxon country. Anyway, in the book, he explains that according to the DNA of the English people, actually most people living in England are the Celtic people, as we would know them in Roman times. Romans invade, the whole country is Celtic. But yeah, the thing about the Anglo-Saxons is apparently they first came over as a group of mercenaries, a small private army employed by a Celtic king. After some time, they realized actually, we're the power around here. They could get rid of that king, and they would be the ruling military elite of the country. But they're not the majority of people in the country. So this story of Robin Hood goes back to the kind of Celtic roots of England, the English people. Okay, Angles, Saxons, a lot of people coming in, Danish, a lot of people coming into the country, coming into that part of that the British Isles, throughout hundreds of years, throughout hundreds of years history. But predominantly, those people are the people living in England are actually DNA wise Celtic. But whether that means that it's a traditional story of Celt, like the Robin Hood story is a traditional Celtic story. Yeah, it probably is. But actually, it only takes at the end of the Ramayana, it explains that after Lord Ram, I think, dies, then his two sons, it says that they then travel the whole world telling the story of Lord Ram, which is kind of similar to you hear about any kind of religious missionary going out and about, you hear about the Jesuits going. I've seen a film with the Jesuits, that chap's in it, I can't remember his name, Jeremy Irons. He's a Jesuit and he goes to South America. So he's on a mission. He wants to tell people the story of Jesus. So similarly, at the end of the Ramayana, Lord Ram's two sons, Lav and Kush, they go out and that's it. It only takes one person to come from India, from Ayodhya. He walks across. He's received at the court of the king in the UK, whoever it might be at that time, and he tells a story. He tells him the story, and from that one person, the story then becomes part of the nation, part of the culture, and lives on to this day. So it's some people will say what I'm saying is preposterous. Particularly people in academically schooled are going to come up with that kind of response to this theory, this proposal. But I came across this in a book written by a lady. She works for the BBC. I can't remember her name. All I remember about her is that she keeps pet tarantulas. That's what I remember from the book. But she put this in the book. She had another book that was the idea that the Celtic people came from the Alps and they kind of spread out from the Alps. And then they said a new hypothesis suggests that let me move my a little screen here. Look, you see. So okay, you're coming across Turkey there from Afghanistan. But yeah, so there's this Indo-European. I mean, it's quite well. I think, particularly in linguistics, it's quite well accepted that Sanskrit is the origin of. Well, they call it Proto-Indo-European, but Sanskrit is the root of the Indo-European languages, and we're talking, coming from the source in India, coming across, and then populating Europe with language and presumably with people as well, somehow like that. So yeah, it doesn't take much for someone to, walk across and tell the story like the Jesuits preaching. But yeah, so there's more examples of this, of the story of Ram leaving India or Pakistan. They say the Harappan civilization was actually mainly in Pakistan, but Ayodhya is the capital city of Lord Ram and his pastimes, and where he came from, and that's somewhere in the north of India, so not exactly connected. According to modern academia's idea of it, connected with the Harappan, but my presentation is that this Harappan civilization was larger than is currently accepted. But it's all kind of lost in the mist of time, and the Ramayana itself is dated at 3 million years old. So it's quite a different understanding of human origins. But we don't want to get into that either. That's another presentation. Here we go. So look, we've got Mesopotamia here. Got this slide of Mesopotamia. This is famous, the famous monument from ancient Mesopotamia, Sumerians. This building here is made out of bricks, baked clay bricks from a long time ago. And you've got all these towns here. This chap, so Leonard Woolley, he was a British archaeologist doing some of the earliest excavations. And here we go. So this is part of the pastime of Lord Ram. These are monkey warriors. Apparently this stone carved tablet thingy bob was uncovered in Mesopotamia. And it seems actually that a lot of the kings of Mesopotamia gave themselves the name Ram, which is after Lord Ram from the Ramayana. So this little script here was written by someone who's arguing from this point of view, a Hindu person who's trying to proclaim the supremacy of Indian culture and civilization. Woolley forgot to highlight its discovery, its significance to world history. The finding reminds us that the ancient Hindu religion was in practice even during the Mesopotamian civilization, precursor to. I mean, from my point of view, Mesopotamia is a colony of the Harappans, and probably ancient Egypt the same. This extremely crucial finding not only bridges the wide gap between Indian tradition and archaeology, but also unfurls the spiritual and historic connections that once united the great Indian nation with Iraq and Sumer. Ram, son of Larsa, this is one of the kings to whose memory this chapel was dedicated, is Lord Ram of Valmiki. Valmiki is the author of the original Ramayana story. The name or the person who wrote it down. The name Araram of Larsa is said to be an echo of Lord Ram. The Ram Chapel. So there's a few. It seems there's a few little churches there dedicated to Ram, and there's a connection there, isn't there, with this? Oh, it's not very good. So you can see the monkey there. This is a Hindu depiction of Lord Ram, Prince Ram, with Hanuman with his tail. You can see the tails, and then here we can see another rock carving with, you see someone holding a bow and arrow with a quiver, and then knelt before him is somebody knelt down there, and I can see his lips are like that. ooh, like a monkey, ooh. I don't know if anyone else can see that. I've only just noticed that because I'm using my friend's computer and he's got a really big screen. I can see these pictures better than I've ever been able to see them before. You also need a big screen to be able to see that. But yeah, he definitely looks like he's going like that. Ooh, like a monkey. That was a bigger version there. And then look, you can see it's a similar kind of loader arm stood with monkey man before him. That's Hanuman, the great Hanuman. And here he is. This is the stood with the bow and arrow, and then you can see the monkey Hanuman, the great Hanuman. Seeing here, yeah, Ram, and this is the this is the altar at pretty much the most influential and largest Hindu temple in the UK. And for me, it's how to say, it is the arrangement of God, the arrangement of God, that the chief, the main deities in the biggest Hindu temple in the UK are of Lord Ram, his brother Lakshman, Will Scarlet, his wife Sita, Maid Marian, and Hanuman, Little John. And the quintessential English legend is here it is on the altar in the biggest Hindu temple. So next slide. I don't know if I can change the slide now. This way. Okay, so other depictions of this is okay. This is another an archaeological find found in Mesopotamia, and we're comparing this to this. This is the Hindu god Durga with the lion, with the weapons. We're drawing a parallel there, and we're saying also an example of Hinduism traveling west from India to other regions. And also look at this one. Okay, this is another presentation I've got lined up. On one side here, we've got Hercules with the lion headdress, and then we've got Lord Narasingha, the lion, half man, half lion incarnation, avatar of Vishnu, or avatar of Krishna. And okay, they look very similar, but this isn't the parallel I want to draw. This is the parallel I want to draw here. This is the lion man, found. It could be a mammoth tusk or an elephant tusk, probably found in Germany, in a cave in Germany. And the story of this getting pieced together is an amazing story in itself, and it's worth looking up. But this is the lion man found in Germany, and I'm drawing a parallel with Lord Nrsimha. And historians, they say, oh, it's just a random kind of half man, half lion. But this is the point. If you're a policeman and you're looking for your chief suspect, and the description is he's got brown hair, he's got Adidas tracksuit bottoms, and he's got a red jumper, then if he fits the description, it's the same person. And okay, I've heard the lady who's the curator of the British Museum, the Lion Man, was on display in the British Museum, and she's alluding to all different kinds of ideas of what it could be, and who it is, and who made it, and why they made it, and she's trying to piece together, but she's got no idea really, no idea who it is at all. And it's so random. You could have a half frog, half man. You could have a half deer. Well, you do have half horse, half man, don't you? These Greek centaurs. That's different again. But yeah, it could be any random combination of two animals, but you've got a half man, a half lion. It's exactly the same as the Narasingha avatar. It was found, and it's dated as being 40,000 BC. That's how old it is, the lion man. So pretty much at the what that means for me is that at the end of the last ice age, the ice is ice sheets are spreading north. People from who are familiar with Indian culture, who are followers of that religion, are traveling west, and they're hunting in a cave, staying in a cave in Germany, and they're you could say, well, they're Hindus. Well, pretty much that's what they are, pretty much. Pretty much. So yeah, is there a connection? And yeah, I presented this idea of the connection between Robin Hood and Lord Ram to a couple of other older monks, and they just threw it out. They said, no, there's no that's just, you've concocted that. But I hung on to it because having been raised, with Robin Hood, and then thrust into this monastery, and like finding my Robin Hood again in Lord Ram, and it was in my heart. I was like, I know this is true. It's, for me, it is the case. I have that conviction. So having been rejected by two older monks, you're not supposed to go shopping around for people who agree with your theory, but anyway, I did, and I approached another monk, and he's a very nice chap. He works as a priest, actually at the temple where we showed the altar, Sita, Ram, Lakshman, Hanuman. He works there as a priest. He does a lot of weddings. His name is Krupa Moya, and he told me, he said, okay, yeah. He was more reasonable. He's like, okay, it's a possibility, it's an idea, but he said, but actually, I want you to find 3 stories, which, like I wrote in the introduction there, which 3 stories which connect like European culture with ancient Indian culture, and that grant people the possibility to see that India is a mother culture, not a foreign and alien culture. So it's a mother culture, and we have our roots there. Of course, a lot of people don't like that idea, especially if people are racist. But that what to do if people are racist. So yeah, to see this as a mother culture, and he asked me to find 3 stories. So, and this is the first presentation. My other one is actually going to be about Hercules, the story of Hercules, and the other story I'm going to present is actually about probably a lot of people won't like this one either. It's about Jesus, the Jesus birth story, and its correlation with the Krishna birth story. So yeah, but Krupa Moya, he questioned, he challenged it, and he said, well, I'm not so sure about the plot, because, and it's definitely true that there's a lot of stories associated, and for example, yeah, this book, the plot and the stories in this book, I would say have absolutely, well, pretty much no correlation to the Ramayana. And even though I love this book very much, yeah, perhaps perhaps there was a one or more than one person to whom the Robin Hood stories, tales. There's so many different tales, and it could be one person, it could be many different people. But there is a central plot, and it's the plot of Kevin Costner, Prince of Thieves, and it's actually the same plot of the first 2 episodes of Robin of Sherwood, where Maid Marian is captured, not by the sheriff of Nottingham, but she's captured by an evil sorcerer who takes her to his castle, and then Robin has to recapture her. But yeah, there's so many different stories of Robin Hood, and Robin Hood himself is such a anyone now can write a story and put it along the Robin Hood, set it in the Robin Hood story. Write any story. There's anyone is at license to do that, and there's so many stories. I mean, another one is Rob Roy McGregor. Apparently, a lot of the the feats and the deeds of Rob Roy McGregor from Scotland. They've incorporated them, and people will tell those stories as though Robin Hood is the hero of those stories. So there may have been so many people in these Middle Ages who were outlaws and did brave and courageous deeds against oppressive rulers, and a lot of those stories are retained and kept and preserved, you know, as the stories of Robin Hood. But what we're proposing is that these are being overlaid on an earlier story of the pastime, the story of Lord Ram. And yeah, I was watching. I'm just going to check this next slide. What's on there? No, wrong way. This one. Yeah, I watched a documentary, Tony Robinson, and he was trying to, you know, get down to the nitty gritty. Was there a real Robin Hood? You know, who was he? You know, did he live in Was he from Barnsley, or where is he from? And you know, there's the there's a reputedly his grave at Kirklees Abbey, and yeah, there's a lot of pastime places, isn't there, in Sherwood Forest, the Great Oak, and lots of other local connections with whoever was supposedly the real Robin Hood. So yeah, I've got this. Can the real Robin Hood please stand up? So we're saying the original to which other stories and tales may have become attached. The real Robin Hood was this. And then we've got these two bronze statues. This one is in the courtyard of Nottingham Castle, I believe. And then this other one is a small kind of deity, like kind of that you would put in a temple, and a Hindu person would worship this statue. Worshipped by, but they offer a plate of food. They offer incense to the statue. This is the form that the worship takes. So we want to connect. We want to connect the stories of Robin Hood to an earlier time, prior to, you know, what is usually told as the context and the time frame of Robin Hood. So Robin Hood is you know, deemed to have existed and lived in the reign of Richard I, Richard the Lionheart, when he was away on the Crusades, and his brother, who seemingly wasn't such a nice guy, Prince John, he took over. And and then you've got this conflict between the Norman overlords and the, you know, I mean, before I said they're Celts, but supposedly, you know, this previous population, Anglo-Saxon or Celtish. They've got that conflict as well. Robin Hood stories of place in there's another conflict going on, which is a kind of corrupt church, and sometimes they'll capture there's one story where they capture a rich priest who's traveling through. He lies about how much money he got, and so they take his money because he lied. But yeah, a time of a very wealthy church and a very impoverished people. So inequality, addressing inequality. But we want to take the pastime of the story of Robin Hood and put it earlier, before the reign of Richard I, and say that this main plot of a nobleman exiled to the forest. His wife is captured by an evil king, and then Robin has to recruit an army from the forest. Is it the merry men? Is it the monkey soldiers, of which Hanuman, the monkey god, is the leader? And then they attack the castle. He regains his wife, and lives happily ever after. this is the plot, the main plot, and the same plot is runs through the Ramayana, and it runs through the story of Robin Hood. But as well, we've got this Greek Celtic god, ancient god, the Green Man, and this picture here is from one town in England. I'm not sure exactly which town, but they enact this pastime at the May Day celebrations, the Beltane celebrations. Have we got another? There's another here, May Day. We've got this May Day celebrations, which is May Day is the same as Beltane, which is the ancient Celtic festival. And so, according to this, you could say lost in the midst of time, but there's this idea that the Green Man, he's born, or he comes alive in the spring, in this Beltane festival, and then he dies at the end of the year at the Halloween festival. Then he's reborn again. We've got this idea of birth and death, and then rebirth, which I find very very interesting. And it's the same with the sun god Mithras. The Romans worshipped Mithras, and he's a god who dies. Like when the sun goes down at night, the sun god dies, and then it's nighttime, and then in the morning the sun god is reborn again. That's how people understood the sun. He dies, he's reborn. And then from some historians argue that motif of death and rebirth is where Jesus, the story of Jesus's resurrection comes from there. That's people can make their own mind up about that. But again, similarly with the Green Man, you've got a similar thing of him being born in Beltane, and 6 months later, Samhain, or All Hallows Eve, it's called, or Halloween, then he dies. Anyway, I think I don't want to get too sidetracked. We're talking about the origins of Robin Hood. Krupa Moya, he asked me what is the, he questioned the plot of Robin Hood, is because like we said, there's so many different stories of Robin Hood, but we're going back to this original story. We've got the problem with the Robin Hood story is that it's an oral history. It's an oral history. This is a document apparently from the 13th or 14th century. So this is some of the earliest writings of Robin Hood. But yeah, one thing that ties the two things together for me is that we can see that these pastimes of Robin Hood are enacted every year in a lot of towns. It's a tradition that's dying out, sadly, but the same thing goes on in India. It's like, how do they preserve their understanding and knowledge of this Ramayana? It isn't through literature, it's through drama. I mean, literacy rates in India, I'm not sure what they are. They're not as high as they are in Europe. But everybody knows the Ramayana, and apparently the grandmothers tell the story of the Ramayana as they've heard it from their grandparents, and so it passes on. It's an oral history. Ramayana is an oral history. Okay, it's written down now. I mean, I've got the book, but it's preserved in India as an oral history and as a drama. So particularly at the similar time of year, the story of the Ramayana is enacted in a lot of Indian villages, and the same with Robin Hood. It's an oral history. It's not written down until very late. I mean, I researched that there was one storybook of Robin Hood written down in 1883, and it's only really actually in the last, you could say, it's kind of like it's only really existed as we understand it now in a film and in written form in the last 50 years, and people can can dispute it and say, you know, have people just invented it, or where does it come from? And they can't trace its origins. It's very difficult to trace its origins. But yeah, we've got this. Okay, we've got this little piece of evidence of it existing older, and then as Kripamori asks, you know, what is the plot? What is the plot of these older stories? You know, okay, I'm trying to correlate the two. I'm trying to correlate the main characters, and I'm trying to correlate the plots. So let's just read this. This is from Wikipedia, and this is actually the oldest written version I could find, because that's what Kripamori asked for. He asked for the old, what is the oldest version of the Robin Hood story you can find, and does it correspond to this same plot as the Ramayana? It is from association with the May Games that Robin's romantic attachment to Maid Marian apparently stems. A Robin and Marian characters figured in 13th century French pastorelle, of which Jeu de Robin et Marian, excuse me, I don't speak French, circa 1280. So this is the earliest written evidence we have of a Robin Hood and Maid Marian story existing, and presiding over the French May festivities. So apparently these May Day festivities were all across Europe, and even in the UK, we're very lucky to still have them preserved in some places, because when there's been you could say fanatical Christian people in charge of government, then they have actually wiped them out, put an end to them as best they could, but then other kings have resurrected them. So yeah, apparently Oliver Cromwell and his crew didn't like them, puritanical. They put a stop to them. There were some riots, and then when this one of these Charleses, when he was restored to the throne, he said, no, you can carry on having your festivals, having your party, and having your fun, and he allowed these May Day festivals to continue. So yeah, we're lucky to have them, still have them. Although, I mean, yeah, where I grew up in Leyland, there was a field. When I was a kid, I walked there with a neighbour. We were walking the dog, and there's a tall, old, it was going rusty maypole. I was like, "What's that?" She said, "Oh, that's like the old maypole," and it was, the grass was all overgrown, and you could see that nobody had celebrated the festival there for, I don't know, at that time, for some years. And then later that field was built on, they built houses on it, and so that seemed to be the end of all May Day celebrations. Done, dusted, dead and buried in Leyland. No more May Day. This Robin and Marian tended to preside in the intervals, in the attempted seduction of the latter by a series of nights over a variety of rustic pastimes. In the Jeu de Robin, Robin and his companions have to rescue Marian from the clutches of a lustful night. So this is my evidence for the correlating plot of this original Robin Hood story, which correlates to the plot of the Ramayana, which is the same, of a lustful king capturing Marian, and then Robin having to fight to get her back. As compared and contrasted with all of the other stories attached to Robin Hood. So yeah, that's an important piece of evidence for me to support my theory. So yeah, we've got the May Day festivities, enacting these ancient stories, and the plot of the oldest Robin Hood written down, correlating with the Ramayana, and how the story of Robin, all these other stories have been overlaid over the original central plot there. And yeah, I've read a book, Satyaraj is his Hare Krishna name. His normal name is Stephen J. Rosen. He has a book called The Hidden Glory of India. It's a lovely book. And I was reading that book, and it's got a section about the Ramayana. It's a really lovely book, colourful, pictures everywhere, and explaining all the different ideas in Hinduism. And there's a page there about the Ramayana. It's got one page about the Ramayana, then it's got the next page that says Ramayana retellings. And in the Ramayana retellings, it explains that there's lots of different versions of the Ramayana, told in all the different countries of Southeast Asia. So each region has its own version. It's very popular, very, very popular down there. So we've got Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Malaysia. Hinduism, as we know it, it extends all the way as far as Bali, the island of Bali, as far as I can see. That's as far as it goes down, stretching in a southeasterly direction from India. Of course, Burma as well, Myanmar. So all of these, this whole region was really kind of imbibed the Ramayana story, but they each have their different own version of it. And so similarly, when I read that again, I was like, yeah, okay, they've all got their own version, and we have our own version as well in the Robin Hood story. And actually, I was wanting to put these slides in earlier when I was talking about Mesopotamia. I want to talk about the kingdom of Kush. So there was one Swami, I don't know when exactly when he visited Africa, Swami Krishnanand. I think he's from the Divine Life Mission or the Divine Life Church, a Hindu man, and he was a leader of that, I think, a popular Hindu group, and he was visiting Haile Selassie, the king or emperor of Ethiopia or Abyssinia, and he presented him with a copy of the Ramayana, thinking that this would be something new for Haile Selassie, King Haile Selassie. But apparently Haile Selassie's response was, "Oh, we already know all about this. Because we are Hushites." And so he his point of view was that, yeah, we're already familiar with the Ramayana in Africa. There's the kingdom of Kush. So if you look it up, you've got the kingdom of Kush, Sudan, Egypt area. I mean, Haile Selassie is Ethiopian, so stretching all the way down to Ethiopia as well. And actually, in these apparently olden times, then Africa was known as Kushadweep, the island of Kush. So Lord Rama had two sons, Love and Kush established his kingdom in East Africa, possibly most of Africa. So as that, and so there's there's other versions of the Ramayana also, as well as Southeast Asia, in Africa too, and I'm saying in Europe as well. That's my proposal. One critique which could be leveled is that it's just, you could reduce this Ramayana tale to what Jung would refer to an archetype, a common theme throughout myths and legends, that of a recurring motif of an archetype, a damsel, a princess, a damsel in distress is captured by a dragon, taken to a tower, a knight in shining armor. A knight in shining armor comes to rescue her, kills the dragon, and saves the princess. And Jung identifies this and other recurring themes in legends throughout the world, and reduces them to a kind of some kind of psychological prototype. You know, he would even argue that we experience these same the same plot in dream and in legend, and therefore and on that basis one could argue that maybe there is no connection, because it could just, I don't know, I'm not sure exactly. Maybe there's no connection. The similar plot is well, could it be due to deeply imbibed psychological condition? I'm not exactly sure. I'm not exactly sure what I'm saying on this point either. I don't know what I'm saying. We've got this slide here: Robin Hood and Prince Ram. So so another thing I want to throw in there is that I joined when I lived in Edinburgh for a while, and whilst I was there, I joined a story like a kind of a guild of storytellers. I joined a club. They would meet above the Waverley pub, just off the Royal Mile, and upstairs, and we'd go up there, and people would tell stories. A lot of them they would perhaps work in schools, and they were professional storytellers. They were really good at stories. And I went there to listen and to I mean, I wanted to understand the basics of story, and reduce it to its basics of drama, reduce it to its most, the lowest common denominator, its minimal ingredients. We can embellish a story on film with great drama and special effects, etc. But if the actual story and the ability of the storyteller, the director, and the story itself, and the characters and the character development, these are the components, the elements, and if these are good, then a story is entertaining, even if it's just one person just telling you the story. You don't need to embellish it with all the other things that we get on a for example on the cinema, or even in a theater. We once went to see Macbeth, and it was on the show at the Worden Hall Art Centre in Leyland. And it was amazing. The person came in, they had blood in their hands. It was like, I've just killed somebody. It was as though they really just killed somebody. It was like watching a cinema, like watching a film, but having like live 3D action, I went to the storytelling club to understand the basic components, and how we have to have a grasp of how to make those good to in order to be able to make a good story. But what I learned from there was how people retell the stories that they hear, and they change them, and they make them their own. They present their own understanding, and their own personality comes out through the story, which brings it alive. And so if somebody hears a story of something that happened, on the other side of the world, and they come and they tell the story to their local people, then the people are not gonna relate to the main character. So they're gonna, if someone's a storyteller, they're gonna change the details. They're gonna change the location from the Dandakaranya forest in India to Sherwood Forest. They're gonna change the name from Ram, an unfamiliar name, to Robin. But there's so many other things that perpetuate, that still associate the two, that that's evidence for me of the connection, despite the differences, which I argue are the poetic license, and the making it relevant the storyteller making it relevant. Yeah, they're famous for fighting with a bow and arrow. Both the exiled sons of noblemen, the Earl of Locksley is Robin's father, reputedly, and Prince Ram's father, was he called Dasarath? Dasarath, which means 10 chariots. He was as powerful as 10 chariots, I think. He was a king, so he was a prince, Prince Ram. And then we're connecting Prince Ram, Sri Ram, with this earlier god, which predates, the 12th century, the Green Man, going back to ancient times, pre-Christian god, similarities. Yeah, green complexion. How many green people have you seen, walking around in the supermarket? Not many. That's if I was a policeman, we're looking for the suspect is got green skin, so we would be able to identify them as the same person. Although there may have been more other green people walking about back in those days, who knows? Living in the forest, powerful god, ancient tradition. Swipe the right, see if we can swipe the right way. You get the next slide. No, I'm not able to swipe. What's going on? May Day celebrations, these earlier gods. I actually just found one of these Harappan tiles which has a depiction very, very similar to this. This is the Gundestrup cauldron, found in Denmark, a Celtic cauldron. And then there's a Harappan tile with a similar figure in lotus position, horns on the head, with like 4 animals around from the Harappan civilization. So that's another connection between East and West. So here we've got some pictures there. Look, so yeah, is Robin Hood? Is he the Green Man? Is he saying, well, yeah, he's very much connected. Very, very much connected. The Green Man is a symbol of pre-Christian in his origins. We want to just read this bit on the side here. The Green Man is intimately associated with Robin of the Wood. The Green Man is intimately associated with Robin of the Wood. The Green Knight, the May King, or the Summer Lord, and with I don't know how to pronounce that. Cernunnos, the Celtic god of the forest. So in Scotland they have this big Beltane festival on Carlton Hill in Edinburgh, and I'm again connecting Green Man and the May Queen with Robin and Marion. I've got coordinated the colours here to make a connection there. And then similarly here again, there's another poster from another year advertising the Beltane Festival. And I've got the colours going. Yeah, that one was the previous one, wasn't it? Who was it, that chap? What's he called? Errol Flynn. I don't know her name. And then this is Richard Prayard playing in the Robin of Sherwood. And then got the colours coordinated to draw the parallel there between Robin Hood and Maid Marian and the Green Man and the May Queen. And this is some dramatization of the Green Man and the May Queen here. Somewhere in the British Isles. I'm not sure where. I know they do this thing in England in places. I suspect it's probably going on in other countries as well. Wales, Scotland, Ireland. But yeah, the Beltane Festival. They have it at night time, and they have a big fire, and people run around. They take their clothes off and they run around naked. Whereas this celebration is a more child-friendly affair, more civilized enactment. The May Queen. In some pagan belief systems, the May Queen is the goddess of the flowers and the young blushing bride and the princess of the fairies. She is Lady Marian in Robin Hood. That's what I want to draw the attention to. And she is the embodiment of the maiden of Mother Earth in all her fertile glory. Patty Wigington wrote that. I'm not exactly sure who she is, but she seems to be some kind of authority on the subject. And yeah, we want to draw this parallel now between, we've drawn the parallel between the identity of Robin, of the Green Man and Prince Ram. And then now we're drawing the parallel between the identity of Maid Marian, the May Queen, and Sita. So she's also, in this one it says Mother Earth in all her fertile glory. So here we hear about the origin of Mother Sita from the Ramayana. Maharaj Janak then related another story. Once upon a time, as I was leveling the sacrificial arena with a golden plough, much to my astonishment, I happened to uncover a baby girl. I named her Sita, which means furrow, and raised her as my own. From the Ramayana Balakanta. Here he is. He's going to perform a religious ceremony here. Before he does a religious ceremony, he has to make it flat, so he plows it with a golden plow, and out of the earth comes a baby girl. So we're drawing the parallel. Let's go to the next slide if I can. Slide. Oh, here we go. Good, yeah. Next. So we've got this slide. So we've got Beltane down here in this corner. Move my head. Beltane, May the 1st. This is the pagan wheel of the year, the cycle of festivals. So this is complementary evidence. Beltane is here on May the 1st, and this is celebrated as the union of the May Queen and the Green Man. Now, in Hinduism, and these are festivals I've attended since I converted to Hinduism 15 years ago, we have a festival usually 2 weeks before Beltane, which is a festival celebrating the appearance of Ram, Lord Ram. And then 2 weeks after Beltane, we have a festival celebrating the appearance of Sita. So for me, this is you bring the two together. 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after. It always shifts slightly because the Hindu calendar is done according to the moon, whereas the Western calendar and this pagan wheel of the year is done according to the sun. So it always shifts slightly. And then, 6 months after that, we've got 6 months after Beltane, we've got Guy Fawkes Night, Samhain, as it's called in Celtic. Historians have often suggested, and of course this is Samhain, Halloween, and Guy Fawkes Night, all around the same period, and also incidentally Remembrance Sunday. So it is a time of a week or so, which people will say. Some people will say it's a time when this gap between the living and the dead, the veil is thinner, and it's a time for remembering the dead, honoring the dead. It's interesting. Historians have often suggested that Guy Fawkes Day served as a Protestant replacement for the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain. It basically is a continuation. It's a continuation. Maybe some puritanical Christians may have tried to stop it, but it's so ingrained in the culture that pre-Christian festival, these nights of revelry date back much further in history than Guy Fawkes, and it was much later that the existing pagan traditions were appropriated for Christian and political aims. So yeah, talking about political aims, Guy Fawkes. So yeah, when was the gunpowder plot? Was it 1606, 1604, something like that? It's called Guy Fawkes Night. They make an effigy of Guy Fawkes, but and burn him, because he was supposedly the bad guy who tried to blow up House of Parliament. I can't remember. Was he a Catholic guy? I can't remember. Yeah, I think he was a Catholic guy, and there was a Protestant Parliament, so he wanted to blow it up. So that happened in 1606, but it's pretty obvious the festival has been going on for a long, long time. It's pre-Christian, so it predates Gunpowder Plot, predates Guy Fawkes, and yeah, I even read on Wikipedia that in America they were having some kind of bonfire night, and they would put whatever effigy of basically just an effigy representing the personification of evil. So they would put some politician they didn't like on there and say, oh, it's it's Donald Trump or something on the bonfire, or even like the other one, it's Darth Vader. You could get a Darth Vader hat, personification of evil. So this is what the festival represents. It's a personification of evil. So I've actually deliberately switched those names there because I see the same festival going on. And what also is interesting is that I don't see this same festival being enacted in other parts of Europe. I was in Sweden, living there when I was 18. They had something called Saint Walpurgis night, Saint Walburg's night with a bonfire. It was a different time of year, and didn't really correlate. They didn't have an effigy on top. But yeah, this one for me is big evidence of some kind of correlation in cultural correlation between the British Isles and India. And one year I was sent on pilgrimage by the monastery to visit India, and it was about the time of the end of October, and there's a particular time of year, a holy month of the year in Hinduism, the Kartik month it's called. People do a little lamp every day, and so a lot of people go on pilgrimage at that time. So I was imagine me, I'm in the UK. It's the time of Guy Fawkes, and I may have attended a bonfire night, and then I get on the plane the next day. I arrive in India. We get off the plane in Delhi. We get a taxi through to Vrindavan, a holy town, and then we get out of the taxi, unpack our bags, and we think, okay, let's go out. And we go out to the cow farm, in Vrindavan, run by monks of the same order that we belong to. We go out to the cow farm, and then next to the cow farm there's a football pitch where the kids can play football, and on the football pitch is this Dussehra festival, and I'm like, you could say I have to look twice. Oh my God, this is exactly the same ritual that we've just had in the UK. Exactly the same, bonfire, burning an effigy, proof for me that there is this ancient cultural connection. And the effigy they're burning in the Dussehra festival is Ravan, the evil king of the Ramayana saga. That's who they're burning there. So I could argue that the festival of Guy Fawkes Night, bonfire night as we know it in the UK, dates back to somehow the influence of this Ramayana retelling in the UK, or otherwise, the traveling of peoples from India to populate the UK in ancient times. One theory or the other. But I try to edit Wikipedia to include in the entry for Guy Fawkes Night. It says at the end, and it is similar in many ways to Diwali. Diwali is a more well-known Hindu festival with fireworks and things. So it's easy, you know, it's easy to, it's also at a similar time of year. Now, Dussehra takes place, I think it's usually 2 or 3 weeks, I think before Diwali every year. So I tried to say in the Wikipedia, well, actually, it's more similar to the Guy Fawkes Night. It's more similar to Dussehra. Well, in fact, it's practically exactly the same. It's a replica of the same event, the same ritual. But anyway, I couldn't figure out how to edit Wikipedia, but I'll still try because you know, I want people to present this theory to people, and people can respond and see what they make of it. Guy Fawkes Night. Okay, no, we're going backwards. Okay, so we've got a breakdown of the similar plot. Protagonist, born son of a nobleman, meets his wife, exiled to the forest, life in the forest, wife kidnapped, taken to his castle. Searching for the wife, the protagonist meets leader of a group in a forest, not usually considered to be warriors, and enlists their help in the recovery of his wife. They continue searching for the missing wife together. The wife is located in the antagonist's castle. They cross the moat, besiege the castle, have a battle, kill the evil king, and return home. So now we're going to. So this is a Indian painting of him getting exiled. I would like to have pictures of all of these different points, key points in the plot, but I don't. So anyway, yeah, he's born. Robin is the son of Earl of Locksley. Somehow he meets Maid Marian. So here they are, they're getting exiled to the forest, going away. Here they are, going into the jungle, into the Indian jungle to live. They've been exiled. Yeah, supposedly Robin, he may go there by choice to the forest, or kind of pretty much forced into it because for whatever reason. It's depicted in different stories. Yeah, I'm just remembering the Kevin Costner, how it happens. You know, maybe his house is destroyed. In that one, it's Brian Blessed. Is it Brian Blessed who plays his father? And there's a kind of a Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, a kind of a Ku Klux Klan group arrive at his dad's castle and they kill his dad. So then Robin realizes he can't go back. He has to go to the forest. So there's different reasons presented. I consider that a detail of why he has to go to the forest. And in the Ramayana, it's because, well, it's quite complicated to explain, but his dad has 3 wives, and one of his wives becomes persuaded by her servant that her son should be the king. She's maybe the second wife, not the first wife. So, and her son's not the eldest son. So in that way, she says the servant persuades the second queen to use a special favor that the king granted her years before, to request that Prince Ram shouldn't become the king. Her son should become king, and Prince Ram has to go and live in the forest instead. So yeah, this is equivalent as well. The forest, with the Sherwood Forest, Dandakarani Forest. So some pictures that look similar: life in the forest, Ram and Sita, Robin and Marian. Pastimes in the forest, quite different in both cultures. You know, the stories of Robin are that he would hunt the king's deer and feast on venison with the merry men. But in the Ramayana, it's different insofar as they go to the forest and they live like the other people who are living there already. And the other people living there already are like aesthetic monks. And so they adopt the lifestyle of the aesthetics, which isn't as opulent as Robin's time in the forest, drinking wine, eating meat. Hinduism pretty much is vegetarian anyway, but he lives a life of austerity in the forest. And there's lessons and there's teachings in that as well. The glories of the simple life, and even though he was a king, he's willing to undergo the austerities, just to kind of honor his father's promise. So we've got an equivalent character here. We've got Ram's brother Lakshman, and Robin's brother Will Scarlet, or at least his brother in arms. We don't know if he's exactly the same mother, but he's definitely his first and most important companion, actually, as well. We're always depicted together with Robin. Is always depicted, together with his Little John, with the other main characters, Little John, Maid Marian, Will Scarlet. One critique you could say is, well, what about Friar Tuck? Where's Friar Tuck in the Ramayana? There is no Christian priest in this ancient Hindu epic, and I would argue that, like we've said before, storytellers retelling it, reinventing it. I mean, even we now know in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, we have Morgan Freeman playing the role of a Moor, who he's supposedly met in the Crusades, and that character was the first time we had a Moor or a Saracen or someone from the Middle East as a character in the Robin Hood saga. The first time that actually appeared was in the Robin of Sherwood BBC TV series. Was it BBC or ITV? I don't know. It was on that series, and they put a character in there, and that was the first time that character had appeared in Robin Hood stories. And you can read about this on Wikipedia, and they say that they put that in there for good race relations in a multicultural Britain. So that's why they incorporated that character, and then that character appeared again in Prince of Thieves. But prior to that, that character didn't exist, and you don't find that in any earlier versions of Robin Hood. That character doesn't exist. It's a poetic license. So similar, I say Friar Tuck is also a poetic license. You're bringing this story's been told, since the Middle Ages, and it's a Christian country. We want to incorporate a good, likable Christian character amongst this. What you've got to say is the most popular English folktale. Wrong way. The plot goes: the wife is kidnapped. This is a scene from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. This is a drawing of the evil King Ravan capturing Sita in the forest. They all in Prince of Thieves. They also I think they capture her from the forest. Oh, no, they capture her from her house, and they attack the encampment in the forest. The evil king, Sheriff of Nottingham, he's slightly more monster-like in the Ramayana story. Got 10 heads apparently. But shot by Lord Ram. So after the wife is kidnapped by the evil king, then Lord Ram begins searching. Don't know where she's gone. Gets back to his hut. She's not there anymore. And there's a story. The story there is that a wizard transformed himself into a golden deer, and the deer was seen near the hut. And Sita said, I'd like to, capture that deer and keep the deer as a pet. So he tried to go, but he was a wizard working in conjunction with Ravan. And once Ram was away and Lakshman went after him to try and help him, then Sita was alone, and then Ravan moves in and kidnaps her. So then Lord Ram has to begin the search, and on his search, he meets with Hanuman, who is the leader of the monkey army. And similarly, Robin meets with Little John, who is a leader of a band of outlaws who are living in the forest. And there's a difference. They're the same character, corresponding character, but there's a difference in the two stories in how they meet. According to Robin Hood, they meet on a bridge over a river, and they have a fight with sticks. And eventually, Little Johnny challenges him, and they fight each other, and Robin beats him, and then he submits. But in the Ramayana story, then they say that Hanuman is overawed by Lord Ram's beauty and his kind of disposition and his countenance. He's just as regal. You can see his regality, and Hanuman just submits straight away. There he is. I love this picture. I really love this picture. I've got it on my wall at home. So the next slide. So yeah, the corresponding characters. Hanuman as the leader of the merry men, and the army in the forest, the merry men or the monkey warriors. Evil king's wicked henchman, Guy of Gisborne, is quite a key figure in the Robin Hood stories, and an equivalent character would be Indrajit, which is Robin's son, who's a good warrior. These two pictures show a similar dress of, they dress, once she's kidnapped, he dresses her up because he wants her to be his kind of queen, but he doesn't want to. He's loyal to her husband. Tony Robinson there. This was when I was a kid. It was on TV. So there's crossing the moat. This is a very famous pastime of Ram, when they build a bridge to Sri Lanka. In the English version, then it's a castle with a moat. So it's not as big, but still they have to cross it, and that's from the Disney version of Robin's swimming across there with a snorkel, a bulrush made into a snorkel. And here's these two showing the attack on the castle. Ram, castle in the background there, Ram firing an arrow into Ravenna's heart. And here is Robin about to attack Nottingham Castle, where Maid Marian is held captive. So the battle ensues. The evil king is killed. There's a 10-headed raven, and he wins his wife back. Like the Green Man. So the divine couple of Robin Hood and Maid Marian, Sita and Ram, green, associated with the color green. And then this is two other symmetrical items of the plot. The return of the king in the Robin Hood story. At the end of the story, Richard the Lionheart returns. So the good king returns back to England from the Crusades, and that's fantastic news for everybody, because now things are going to be good again. There's an honourable monarch in charge. So people bow down, as is a custom. And so at the end of the Ramayana, something similar happens, which is that, having won his wife, he returns back to in Sri Lanka, which is off the coast of south of India. He returns back to his capital in the north of India, Ayodhya. And so similarly, the king returns, people bow down similarly, and everyone's happy that, a good and honourable, just king will preside again. And then a final ceremony, which is actually I just remember the end of Star Wars, where they have a ceremony, and they get medals, and it's kind of it's a nice way to finish a kind of an epic tale. and you could say, well, that's just, it's a nice way to finish it. So is there actually is it evidence that there's a correlation? Well, that's up to you to decide. But at the end of the Robin Hood story there's a ceremony, it's a wedding ceremony, and the king King Richard, he marries Robin and Maid Marian. But in the Ramayana, they're married much earlier. They're married at the very beginning of the story. And then which makes the the pain of the separation, the married, for a married girl to be kidnapped is worse than if Robin and Maid Marian aren't even married and she gets kidnapped. Okay, he's in love with her, but anyway, he gets her back. He gets her back in the end. That's good. But the similar ceremony to finish the Ramayana saga is the coronation. So yeah, so we have the Ram returning, and then the pomp and ceremony of the coronation. So yeah, we've analysed the plot, we've analysed the characters, we've tried to draw something of a connection with the basically going into the mists of time, ancient history of pre-Christian religion in the UK. We've talked a little bit about storytellers adapting stories to make them relevant and more enjoyable and relatable to local audiences. And we've also talked about this migration of either whole peoples or of just traveling minstrels, new people carrying the news, this migration west from India. We've got that map produced in the book by the lady who worked for the BBC showing that. And also we've got this, the Kingdom of Kush, we've got Mesopotamia, we've got Kingdom of Kush, and then we've got the Robin Hood story popping up in England. This is a chant that people chant. What do you think? Is it plausible? Is it plausible? And yeah, my take on it is that it is a fact, but actually that it's I don't consider it to be. Other people may think, well, it's so far-fetched. I just, yeah, it's true, but it's not like it's not a big deal. It's yeah, it's a fact. The Robin Hood, something as English as Robin Hood, has its roots in this ancient Indian saga, and yeah, let's just get on with things. Yeah, I'd like more people to hear my theory and respond. I'll try and send this video out to other historians and get some feedback and take it from there. So thank you for listening. Thank you to everybody. Hare Krishna. Stop recording.